Yeah, so anyway, the thing about the Capitals is that like they have a good offense, but the defense is not so good. The linebackers are
I hate
very
the
short,
Capitals.
small.
I don't like
You
DC
don't fucking
teams.
Capitals?
I don't like I only the Wizards, and that's because they used to be the Baltimore Bullets, which admittedly is a bad name for a team from
Oh
Baltimore.
my god, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be the Baltimore Fin
Wait.
Dealers.
Where's Abby? Like,
Oh.
she knows that we're recording today, right?
Yeah. I mean, I texted her. She should be here. She's usually late.
Okay. But Brad, do you know where Abby went?
No.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Okay.
None at all.
Wait. So, okay, I've been seeing all of these black cars outside of the house, right? Back
All
and
right.
forth. And some of the stuff we said on the Syria episode, I think her support of Hezbollah was a little bit extreme.
Yeah,
And-
that
and
was a
so-
little.
Yeah, she's weirdly like super pro Hezbollah. It's fucking bizarre. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of those cars picked her up and she's like in Jordan right now, like at a black site. Because you know what the CIA does. If they want someone worked over, they can do it in Iraq. But if they want someone worked over a little harder, you go to Syria. And if you want someone to get really messed up, you go to Jordan and the Mukhabarat do it. So I bet she's in some basement right now. Just
I mean,
Hey,
that's probably it.
Guys,
what?
I was on the phone. I just got back to school. You all right?
Oh shit.
Okay, so it's not a black site.
Welcome to CrackOps, the official podcast of the Russian SVR,
Oh God, please don't
brought
make
to you
those
by the
jokes.
Nestle Corporation. Now, so today we're talking about the Indonesian president Sukarno and his hilarious, outlandish sex life and the Russian and American attempts to blackmail him for it. And
Now,
their
did he have a
absolutely
surname?
crushing failure.
Yeah, we're gonna need some context. So, did he have a surname? Is his name just Sukarno?
His name is just Sukarno.
Just
It's a
Sukarno.
mononym.
Sort of
It's
like
like Cher
Beyonce
or
or
Beyonce?
Cher.
It's like yeah, he's a lot like Beyonce in several different ways.
Imagine if Beyonce was a dictator of Indonesia. That would be kind of fun.
The Beehive would probably be the secret police.
Oh Jesus!
Buzz, buzz.
I hear a buzzing
Twitter
at
in
the
real
door.
life.
All right, so more context. What time frame are we talking about? Where is Indonesia in the world?
Ah.
You know, something that an uninformed observer would not know about.
Well, our audience all have PhDs and are geniuses, Mensa members and such, but for the one or two people who won't get it, Indonesia is to the north of Australia. It's a set of like 10 jillion islands in the
That
Pacific.
string of islands.
It's a
in
string of
Oceania.
islands. Some of them are very big, others very small. You might not know
That's where
this.
Borneo is, right?
I think it's where Borneo is, yeah. You know, Java, the coffee island, is there too.
The coffee island. Gwyneth Paltrow, probably.
Actually, that coffee that hipsters drink where the little like
The civet?
mongoose animals eat it
Civet,
and then
yeah,
they
civets.
shit it out.
They are called civets. They are like
Civets.
cats, but not really.
They're
Yeah,
fake cats.
That actually does come from Indonesia, I think.
Cool. All right, so that's where Indonesia is. What time frame are we talking about for Sukarno?
We're going to do a quick overview starting with World War II in the 40s and going up to the 60s. I think he was overthrown in 65.
All right, let's get into it.
So, Indonesia was a Dutch colony. The Dutch East India Company ran that place like a giant slave plantation for a couple hundred years.
Wait, so the Dutch East India Trading Company was still a thing in like the 40s?
Yeah, well, no, they had turned it into like just a formal government, like just a
Okay.
colony of the Dutch.
All right.
The Dutch country.
The Dutchers, the Dutch ovens.
Now I'm just
Pennsylvania
imagining
Dutch
pairs
colony.
of clogs
Pennsylvania
with like guns controlling Indonesia.
Oh yeah. No, so the Dutch held on to it until 1941 when the Japanese Empire invaded. They occupied the islands fairly easily. The Dutch didn't really have a big presence there. And the existing Indonesian independence movement, which had been gaining strength since the 20s, actually had this Sukarno guy who was involved with it. He was a prominent leader. And he and his independence party...
Note check.
Note check. I didn't
This is
put
where
the
we get
name
a
on it.
graphic and we put it on the screen and it says note check.
You're asking for so
I'm
much
kidding.
stuff.
I'm kidding.
Put it on.
I should just have a little.
Which
piece
is,
of
I feel, is
I
part
can
of
do
the joke.
Photoshop.
like
I
the
got you.
real graphic is just no. No flashes
So
on
the
the screen for a
standby
second.
screen.
So he and his independence party actually partnered with the Japanese occupiers. Yeah. And Sukarno was made like the leader of Indonesia by the Japanese.
Okay.
They did this because
That's not Imperial Japan is not a group you want to put you in power. If they tried to put me in power, I'd look in the mirror for a very long time.
It's not a good letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
If Imperial Japan is like, you're the kind of person that we want running our
Yeah,
our
you've really
potentate
got the
state.
moxie for it, guys.
we want you to run our little like extraction operation in your country.
Because that means that
Which
you're
that's
a
the thing
good
with Imperial
dude.
Japan is they just had to be slightly better than the Europeans, and they couldn't even swing that.
Exactly, and that's why the Indonesian Independence Party, like, they joined up with the Japanese. They wanted a national platform for their issues to be able to get the independence message out to the Indonesians, and the Japanese gave them that. It was
Which
it was
makes sense.
quid pro quo.
Like, I guess communication would be a problem since it's 1940s. It's not super well developed, and
No, very
it's an
poor.
island state.
Multiple thousand islands.
Yeah.
And the Japanese also they promised this in a lot of the places they invaded, Burma and these other spots. They said
Myanmar. They need a name change. We're just keeping it relevant.
whatever. I call
Okay.
it Burma.
Yeah,
It's
well,
easier to pronounce.
I go either way.
And so the Japanese said, we're going to kick the Europeans out. You can have your own country. You'll be part of our alliance. And a lot of people were taken in by that. They said, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll work with you." You
So
kicked
they're
out
going to
the
be like
Dutch.
Eastern Bloc.
They
but
thought it was going to
Southern
be
Bloc.
like that, but what it ended up being is the Japanese were actually worse than the Dutch.
Yeah, no clogs.
Hey.
No clogs.
Japan.
No good Pennsylvania Dutch fudge or chocolates or candies or anything like that. Terrible.
Beatings and beheadings and whatnot.
Beheadings,
They went from wooden
bastinado,
shoes to wooden
they-
sandals.
They exported so much food out of Indonesia that they caused a famine, which I think killed 1 million people.
Oh, Jesus, I didn't even hear about that.
Fuck.
They made Indonesia part of their war economy, and that was not great to be part of that war economy. So Sukarno was, later on a little bit less than pleased with the treatment of his country by the Japs. So in 1945, the Japanese get kicked out. War's over. They're gone from Indonesia. And Sukarno leads basically a military insurrection against the Dutch. Because the
Now,
Dutch
did the
tried to come
Japanese
back.
withdraw after surrendering to the U.S., or were they kicked out by the Indonesians?
They were kicked out by the U.S. There were a lot of major battles that took
Part
place
of the
in
island hopping
Indonesia,
strategy. For anyone using this to study for their American history,
which you shouldn't do.
which you really shouldn't, but World War II ended in 1945. Island hopping will
Yes.
probably be on your test.
Yeah, you want to know that buzzword, right?
That buzzword. It's a good
SAT
buzzword.
word.
Island hopping.
Yeah. So
It's like bar hopping,
Sukarno
but
now,
with arms.
We're going on an island crawl. It's basically just our entire Pacific Ocean campaign.
we're going to start at Guadalcanal and we're going to go to Okinawa.
Now,
It's
Midway's
going to
be a long time, but we'll take care of it.
You just,
No
it's a
beer,
big
only
bar,
sake.
and we're not going to do any liquor. It's
With a little umbrella in it.
yeah, we're going to do cocktails, so it's going to be expensive. You want to save up for a couple paychecks for this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy. It's gonna be a 4-year
4-year
bar crawl.
The ultimate bender.
Our liver will become mummified. It will look like a pickle by the end.
Oh, kidneys falling out.
All the pickles at the delis, that's
Collapse.
where they come from.
Oh,
Like the little tiny ones, like what are they
the little
called?
dill pickles.
Like not
Oh,
dill,
the
it's like starts with
crunchy. I like a
G.
good crunchy pickle.
Gherkins.
Gherkins.
Little gherkin
There it
pickles.
is.
Those are good.
Gherkin livers.
Oh.
All
The
your
4-year
internal
bar
organs.
crawl. Anyway, Sukarno.
Yeah. So anyway, the Indonesians fight like a 4-year independence war against the Dutch. They fight them to a standstill.
Okay.
They get a settlement where Indonesia's broken up into like an independent state, and then a bunch of Dutch puppets. And gradually, the Dutch puppets fall apart.
Like
the
the
Indonesians take
Muppets?
them over. Yeah, it's
The
a lot like the
Duppets?
Muppets, the Duppets.
Hinga dinga durgan. Like
East
the Swedish
Indonesia
chef.
was
Hurty
Kermit.
hurty hur. Sorry, this is a serious topic. Currently,
they're all
we-
serious
it's still
topics.
no. It's kind of bad that we're making jokes about this. Anyway, back to our show. Making jokes about stuff.
So anyway, making jokes about bad things that happened. So they get their independence, and Sukarno is a prominent leader. The country starts out as being like kind of a parliamentary democracy, and it becomes less and less of that as Sukarno increases his own
They're
personal.
pulling a hungry.
They're pulling a hungry.
No,
Yeah.
I just ate. I'm good.
Oh my god.
This is now a 2-person podcast. JD is in podcast jail.
Yeah.
On the
You're
island.
remote too.
But you're leaving my
The
mic
penal,
muted.
the podcast penal island.
Yeah. We're gonna get to the point where it's just Brad here, like coordinating 5 people calling in.
But the camera will still be up, showing the empty basement.
This is what happens.
Because we need a visual for YouTube.
Six
So-
Semper Podcastus.
Oh, God.
That-
Don't
I
make me
think
break.
it's pretty good.
Don't make me break your ankle.
So eventually the Dutch
Downloads.
pull out, and then there's the parliamentary
The
democracy.
Dutch fuck off back to their little country to smoke weed and do hookers.
And, yeah, red lights and stuff.
Yeah, to bicycle. They love bicycle.
Amsterdam.
Wasn't so
Spring
whimsical when they
break.
were doing comedy
Amsterdam.
stuff. But yeah, no, Indonesia's
Colonialism rarely is.
it's not a whimsical topic.
Not a whimsical thing.
Although some of the people who come out of it, like our boy Sukarno, are pretty whimsical.
Look at that segue.
Eventually, the Indonesian government comes to resemble kind of a dictatorship. Not really. I mean, he's not like Stalin or something.
But
He's-
it's still an authoritarian state.
it's pretty authoritarian, and
Like
the way
are
that the-
we-
the
like
way
secret
that the-
police or
I don't think they had really a secret police.
Okay.
It was not a nightmare police state. It just wasn't a democracy.
Okay.
And so they do some good stuff with development. Sukarno is not a terrible economic manager. And the way that he maintains power is this sort of tripod of political Islam, the military, and nationalism. And he manages the nationalist, Islamist, and military factions and sort of plays them against each other and keeps them all in the parliament and in his cabinet, shuffling them about. And he sits above it.
And that's always been interesting
So
to me
he's-
with Indonesia, because it's not like a super religious country. Like, you don't hear about so many extremist groups, but they actually only recognize monotheistic religions, which is a problem because their main minority religion is Hinduism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is about the first.
So that's still going on now.
There's a lot of gods.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, Sukarno was his government was secular.
Oh, wow. So,
That's-
wait, was the
yeah,
Islam just
political
sort of a
Islam was just one
nationalist
fa- one
symbol, sort of
faction.
like with Russia and Russian Orthodoxy?
No, it was not. Islam was not a national symbol. It was a secular.
Oh, I
government.
thought you said
So is it
political
more like you just
Islamism.
picked a religion?
Well, political Islam. There were various Islamist political parties,
Okay.
that were in.
So they were
government,
part of the
and
government.
groups. They sort of formed a power block.
Right.
But it was not like I don't know about the majority religion or anything.
But
at
it
that
wasn't. It
point.
wasn't so much like theocratic. It was
It
just
wasn't
like
theocratic
it was
at
much.
all. It was like
it was much more
America.
like adding it in for like
Yeah.
culture, spice, a little
Spice
bit,
it
a
up
little
with
bit of
some
social
Islam.
ordering. Yeah.
Sprinkle,
I mean, it's
sprinkle a little
kind
bit
of
on.
kind of like America with Judeo-Christianity.
It was exactly like that. There was
It's just it's a backbone. It's a cultural backbone.
There was a political party that saw that as their interest, and Sukarno worked with those guys against these other guys. And, so he
It's
was
predictable
never,
when they all publish a book about their rules.
Yeah, so he's never super secure in his control. And one of the legs of the sort of stool on which Sukarno sits was the Communist Party, the PKI, that had about 1 million members. And so he couldn't just suppress them because they were so popular. He had to bring them into the parliament. And the United States did not like that very much. This is where the international relations stuff comes in.
Why ever wouldn't they?
Why
A
ever would
communist
Yeah, you know,
party
it's the
in the time
1950s.
between the
Communist
1940s
America
and
was
1960s?
famously open-minded.
What issue would we possibly have with
Yeah.
that? It's not like we were trying to maintain an iron curtain.
I mean, look, they were elected to parliament. How could we argue with such a thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're about to tell us how.
I'm about to tell you exactly how we can argue with that kind of thing. Here's spoiler alert. This episode is going to be pretty lighthearted, but what happens to Indonesia after
Very
Sukarno's
heavy.
gone is not lighthearted at
Not
all.
good.
Oh my god, it's awful. So the Communist Party, the PKI, they rebel. They have a rebellion that Sukarno has to put down in 1947, I think.
And so that's when he has them join.
And so after that, he has to let them into the government. I mean, if you keep them outside of the political system, they're just going to
Continue to
keep doing
revolt
insurrections.
yeah.
and
Can't beat them,
revolutions
join
and
them
stuff.
kind of thing.
Exactly. So you legitimate them, you bring them in as a political party, and they were actually playing pretty nice. They were no longer trying to overthrow the government, which was, pretty cool.
Don't want to overthrow yourself, right?
Exactly. They became the government.
It's too abstract.
If there are any poli-sci majors listening, this is how you do it.
Pause to drink water. This episode
Love
is
our
brought to you
water.
by oxygen
Big
and
fan
the
of
vibrations that it can carry.
Liquids.
That too.
This
Just
podcast is sponsored by
liquids.
Big Liquid.
Next week,
Any
Big
liquids,
Air.
the gasoline, the ocean, select few
We
lakes.
love our various states of matter
We
on
love
this podcast.
This week is brought. Next week,
Plasma,
you check in for
water.
our gas state episode,
We're going to be talking about
We're
nitrogen,
gonna taste test gasoline.
argon, oxygen.
and even some helium,
Did you know that there's nitrogen in the air?
like
It's not all
70%.
oxygen. Yeah. It's
Oh, so
pretty
my
cool.
lungs are full of nitrogen? That's kind of
Most of it's
fun.
nitrogen. Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
Most of it is. That's the problem with the bends in scuba diving. If you go so low, then the nitrogen bubbles get so small. They
But
can,
can you get
they
high?
can leave the walls of your blood vessel and like expand when you go up and fuck you over.
Gross.
Yeah. So anyway, Sukarno.
That's not the kind of busting I like.
That is not. Oh God.
Okay, so
Not
so
a
this
family-friendly
guy,
show.
Yeah, on YouTube this is not listed as being for kids.
No,
Good.
I made sure to make it.
We should, so we get in
checked
trouble.
YouTube jail.
You find like what is it, $46,000 per
Woo!
We have that kind of
Negative
honestly,
budget.
Hit
I
that
don't want to dab because I might hit the microphone.
That's
I do want to dab.
You're dabbing on the inside.
Hey,
That's
look at
where
that.
it matters.
Pretty good.
We were so hip like 6
We
years
are
ago.
so cool. Oh man.
Hip to the jive. That's what we are.
We're doing it for the gram, folks.
Yep, for the
Fam.
gram.
The gram, fam.
What are we doing? Okay, Sukarno.
No, for the vine.
Yeah, so good ass content. So
Sukarno.
all it would take is a couple of good, political scandals to really damage this guy and hurt his ability to form a coalition and govern.
Which makes sense. I mean, he's got like a loosely held grip on power.
Yeah, more or
He
less.
has enemies that he has to respect to the point of bringing them into
Right,
the
we're into the
government.
60s,
Exactly.
right?
So,
So
like,
he's been in
He does
power
not
for
rule with an
15
iron
years?
fist.
20?
Yeah, he's in power for a good 15
Okay.
years.
Which is, that's long enough for people might start thinking like, I would sure love not this guy,
Exactly.
but he's got power, so maybe we can overthrow him. So the CIA looks at this.
And the KGB too, because this guy was actually not friendly with the Soviets or the U.S. He was not.
A lot of
aligned.
Asian communist
actually one of the
movements
leaders of
weren't.
the non-aligned.
I
What a
love the
golden
story where one of the Soviet premiers visited Chairman Mao. Mao knew he couldn't swim, so they had this discussion in the pool, and he gave the Soviet premier water wings. That's a power move.
That's so petty. Holy shit.
Holy
What a
crap!
Chad.
That is so. I love
Yes.
it.
Oh, if
That's
only
like
you were that
that's
good
like
at agriculture.
Like that's something that Theodore Roosevelt would do. He would take members of Congress and whatnot on hikes. And Theodore Roosevelt was, a renowned mountain man, so he would just be plowing
huge lungs.
along. And these other guys would be like, Mr. President, I need to do something, and I need to talk to you about some sort of, maintaining.
Mr. President.
Like, we need to get rid of we need to not do antitrust stuff. It's like, sorry, can't hear you through your ragged breath, old man.
we need to go have a 7 martini lunch, and I need to smoke 2 cigars to
I'm
recuperate.
going to pick a direction on my compass and climb that way, even over houses. Anyway.
Oh, and LBJ.
Literally going over houses instead of going around them. He's climbing up over
If
them.
the
what the
stories
studio
I've been
revealed.
told, if the stories I've been told are to be true, the Secret Service would knock on your door and be like, "Excuse me, can the president climb over your house?" Because he would just pick up bearing. He would just go like this direction, bearing 278. That's where I'm going.
And so did Sukarno.
That needs to climb over your house.
What the fuck was Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh, and LBJ used to do political negotiations. He'd find out when other congressmen were in the bathroom, and he would talk to them about politics at the urinal.
Oh, LBJ had a
Pull out
huge
his
dick.
tremendous wiener.
It's true.
LBJ.
Yeah,
There's
no,
there's a
there's-
recording of a
there are
phone
audio
conversation he
recordings.
had with his tailor where he's talking about how he needs some extra space
You need
downstairs.
to leave extra space. Yeah, we have audio evidence of the fact that LBJ had a
We'll play it
a big
sometime.
He
donor.
had special needs from.
Okay,
a family.
Sukarno.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
Did he have a
was
big
also
dick?
kind of a Chad. We haven't had stories about it, so probably not. Enough
Yeah.
people saw it.
As we're
had,
gonna
like,
find
wives.
out.
Oh, another thing is that in Indonesia, I think that at this time polygamy was more acceptable than it is now,
Okay.
and certainly more acceptable than in the U.S. So Sukarno had during the course of his life, I have a list somewhere. I put it in the chat.
Yeah, didn't he have like a
See if I
hockey
can
team's
pull it
worth
up.
of wives?
This dude had an offensive line worth of wives. It was ridiculous.
Oh, they could have started a girl group.
Collegiate or NFL?
NFL.
Okay, so it's not as huge as the collegiate where they have all their fourth stringers.
Yeah, there's no 4th string with his wives, but he had 12 wives.
He still had a
over the
deep
course of his
bench.
life. And
Look at the second string wives.
Oh man,
backup.
we're in the fourth quarter and we're dragging. Bring in the second stringers.
yeah, the starter wives are getting injured as the season goes on.
Well, yeah,
so they start
you know.
having to
Yeah,
bring
he's
on the
bench
got-
warmer
yeah.
wives. Like this one has
The
concussion.
classic
Oh
Packers
no.
move.
Bring in the water wife.
He dumps Gatorade on the wives.
Well, the wife draft. Well, we're looking for a good kicker.
It's just a woman with like
the-
6
in
foot long
America-
legs stands up.
I used to be a rocket.
All leg.
Oh god.
Like the
Isn't that a
lamp from a
special meme
Christmas
for
story.
She hops up to the stage. And he's like, she's
What kind
all
of
legs.
Eldritchian
'Cause
horror
she is
is
all
that?
legs, literally.
How do you serve all your? Where is all your organ?
In the leg. It's all
Upper
the leg,
leg.
baby.
Within the bones.
Hey, baby,
A weird bulbous like.
Yeah, where they're safe.
Bone marrow is the organ.
do those legs go all the way up?
Yes, it do. Straight to head.
Oh, leg up to the
Can't street
hairline.
harass his wives because they're literally all leg. Yeah, and I think at one point he had like 3 or 4 wives at once.
Okay.
And this was not scandalous. I mean, it was somewhat irregular, but you know, Indonesia.
Within the
culture.
margin.
It was within the margin, and he could get away with it because people loved
Well,
him.
also,
just
a
like
lot
with
of
the
times
Dutch.
polygamy, it's less about not wanting more wives and more like you can't afford them.
Yeah. It's. Oh,
Who's there?
was that a breaching charge?
Yeah.
They're here.
God. The FBI.
No, so what the 4 wives thing means is that the scandals that the CIA and KGB try to drum up are basically the stupidest possible scandals.
Like things
because
that-
they're sex scandals.
I'm gonna
And-
guess here, because I don't know any of this. I'm gonna guess that they basically tried to run stuff that would have been considered scandalous in Russia or in the U.S.
Absolutely.
and
yeah.
thinking that Indonesia would be like, yeah, what they think is scandalous, we also think is scandalous because that's how
But
cultures
instead, it's
work.
like, oh, Sukarno's
And-
having
and-
sex with another person. This has never happened before.
It's like, okay, cool.
They're like, wow, our president's really cool. He fucks
Yeah, look at that guy. He's got 3 to 4 wives.
No, if they want to embarrass
Whoa.
Sukarno, they should have created fake proof of him not having sex with anyone.
Yeah,
like-
that's honestly why do they never try to fake stuff about people being virgins? Like
Well,
that's way more embarrassing. than
I
most
think that
places.
we should include a segment on this particular episode about how we try and critique this plan and come up with our own. But first, let's hear
Yeah.
what they did.
Oh, what they did. So, because Indonesia was not aligned, and because they were organizing a bunch of third world countries to resist the Soviets and the U.S. and just not play the Cold War game whatsoever, just sit it out. Both sides came after this dude. The KGB did the thing from Archer, where they try to honeypot you. That's actually real. It's not just a joke from the TV show. On a state trip to Moscow
So wait.
in the 60s.
What do you mean? What if someone hasn't seen Archer? What do you mean by this honeypot?
Oh, a honeypot. Well, a honeypot is when a secret agent tries to seduce a target to get information from them or turn them or
Okay.
assassinate them or whatever.
Okay. Sexy,
Which
sexy
happened
spy
quite a
times.
lot. The
spy
East Germans had Romeos, like a whole class of spies, which they named that just did that.
Do they just take poison as soon as they fell in love with teenage girls?
Yeah!
Dope.
That
German
seems like
efficiency.
a,
Kill all the teenagers.
wasteful
There's too many of
program.
them.
That sounds like the Romeo program. Is the Juliet one where they try and capture the Romeo spy agents and then after the Romeos take poison, they stab themselves with a dagger?
yeah. Deploying all these agents to Italy was a terrible
Rusty
idea. They
dagger
got all
knife.
romantic.
Rest in my sheath. Yeah.
Oh, wherefore art thou?
Romeo.
Lyudmila.
Hold on, I have to translate my number signal.
Agent
R
14567.
O N.
Stab yourself.
God damn it! Another Romeo.
Oh boy, I sure hope that my entire mission isn't sexual harassment. I want to go do an assassination. Oh, what number did I draw? Shit! Another. Yeah.
That's
So
the
the
true story of
KGB.
Romeo
Another
and
love
Juliet.
story.
Another.
Yeah, the KGB actually tries to do the thing from like James Bond movies,
The classic
the
seductive
classic
spy
sexy
agent.
Russian lady thing.
Yeah.
Like they literally
Like,
do
oh,
that.
Sukarno,
You know,
I'm
nothing's
going to fuck you,
suspicious
and then
about a
you're going to
Russian
tell me
woman in
state
Indonesia
secrets.
in the 1960s.
Exactly. It's like, so he when he's on the flight to Moscow for a state visit, they have basically all of the flight attendants on the flight are KGB agents, and they're all really attractive women. And their objective is to seduce Sukarno get him back to the hotel in Moscow, have an orgy with him, and then film it, show it to him as blackmail. So what ends up happening is on the plane he gets seduced by one of the stewardesses. Like, oh, Sukarno, I love your hat so much. I can't do a Russian accent.
Clearly this is like
love
you
your
know,
hat.
like
I love your hat.
yeah, like yeah. It's like, which I can only imagine that's how seduction works.
That's right.
None of us
A part
know.
of you, a part of you, compliment sex.
That is basically how it works.
I've been reached out to by the CIA to be a honeypot.
I think you'd be good at it, man. You've got the thing going on.
The je ne sais quoi.
Is that Indonesian?
I have no idea.
Who can say no to your blacksmithing skills?
Ne pas no share.
Oui baguette.
Yes.
What is
Garçon.
it?
So did he have an orgy?
Oh yeah. So he
That was assumed, right?
Oh no, we're gonna. Folks, I have the documents. No.
We have the
So
tape right
the
now.
story goes.
So the story goes, he gets on the plane. He gets seduced by the KGB agent.
Seduced.
He's totally into it. This dude is a total horn
Yes.
dog. It's
Seduction has the implication
This
that
guy
it's
is a
like
pervert uncle,
it's like
basically.
coercion of some sort of like persuasion.
Not coercion, more like
this is
hinting,
more
more
like
subtle.
you want to do the dirty. Let's do the dirty. That sounds good
more
to
or
me.
less. It's like, oh, what's your name? Where are you staying? Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You like jazz?
And then they turn into a bee.
You know, once
surprise,
I
it's
my
Jerry
friend's Tinder and asked the guy, I asked the guy if he liked jazz,
honeypot.
and he just started
What's the
talking
deal
about how he
with
likes
spy
jazz.
seduction?
Hey, what's the deal with this nuclear arms race? I don't want to join the Soviet bloc. That sounds terrible.
I mean, they're gonna bomb you. They're gonna bomb you. Everyone's gonna bomb you. What's
I'm
the
just imagining
deal?
Jerry Seinfeld seducing Sukarno, and it's not a good image.
Oh, George Costanza doing it.
Oh.
So the Sukarno gets seduced.
So he gets seduced on the plane. He goes
brought to the
he lands
hotel?
in Moscow. He goes to his hotel, and he brings the entire flight crew of hot stewardesses, the entire improbably sexy stewardess staff of this.
And he
Soviet,
didn't think this
state
suspicious
plane.
at all.
So this
He,
is like
he didn't. He just lived like this. He did this all the time.
probably expected this. It's like
He thought it was fucking
He
normal.
Because I always hear about
He
stuff
lives
like
in the
these
porno
engineers
world.
and stuff for arms programs being seduced, and it's like, dude, you think women suddenly like you
He did. Like
now that you're
this
at
guy.
Skunkworks?
This guy was like the Jimmy Page of presidents. He just
he lived.
I'm
he
gonna
lived
look
in the
up what he
porno
looks
world.
like, and it's not gonna be Jimmy Page, is it?
no. He's spoiler alert, not exactly the Chad type. Thing.
Yes, this
I
entire
imagine him
plane
being
of incredibly
cylindrical for
attractive
some
women,
reason.
Yeah. All the hot
whose job was
stewardesses.
to be hospitable to me,
Like all six of the hot stewardesses,
Yeah.
whose literal job is to be nice to you and
make you feel comfortable
And
and,
do
happy,
emotional labor.
and butter you up for a state visit. When
exactly.
yeah,
And so he goes back to his hotel. He brings the entire flight crew back with him to his room. They all fuck. it's like something from Caligula.
it's
And
this is a porno. This is 100%.
They're feeding
a porno.
him grapes.
Ugh. I don't know why you brought a toga, but I'm into it. Whatever you like, man.
Yeah, okay.
Russia's great.
When in Moscow.
I love this country. Holy shit. Maybe I should join the Warsaw Pact.
See, that's the move. That's the approach that they should.
That's what they should have just buttered this guy up.
Yeah. So they record a video of the orgy.
So they're in like the hotel room is chock-a-block full of cameras. It's like the Russian embassy in DC. It's bugged all to hell.
Some of those hotels in the Soviet Union where they'd have foreigners stay, every other hotel room would be empty. So you'd stay in one room, and the room next to you would
Just
just
spy.
be surveillance stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
you
Holy
just
crap.
you
Like,
it's
half the
the,
hotel would be empty. People would
the
go in and
classic-
be like, this doesn't feel right.
the classic portrait with the eyes cut out so they can just look in.
Yes.
It's like,
Oh god, I'm just
Okay.
imagining some really
Good
horny
job.
KGB agent, like, looking through the famed picture.
Oh my god.
remember, Vlad, this time, don't move your eyes so much. It's very suspicious.
Vlad, this is work, not fun.
My least favorite part of this job is watching every foreigner shave from behind his mirror.
I
It's
need-
really boring.
I need more eye drops. My eyes are getting too dry from watching. You have to
It's
keep
like
them
Clockwork
wide open
Orange
and no
they just
blinking.
Stick them open.
Yeah, so the next day, the Soviet diplomats, before the negotiations, I think it's in the morning, the Soviet diplomats pull him aside. They take him to one of their buildings to a theater, like to a darkened room, They don't tell him what's gonna happen.
Like an IMAX.
They take him to like a small movie theater with a bunch
Yo,
of seats in it.
IMAX
I believe
4D
it's-
Sukarno sex
hang on,
tape.
So is it just him and
4K,
these
yeah.
guys? It's him and like a handful of guys.
It's him and the Soviet diplomats and his retinue.
Okay.
They get taken to this theater. They sit down, lights go down, the film comes on, and it's President Sukarno banging out like 6 Russian stewardesses. And they say to him, if you don't do what we want, you don't follow our lead in these coming
Your
negotiations.
countrymen will know that you fuck.
Yeah, your countrymen are going to learn that you're too cool.
Yeah, we'll learn that you
and
just
that you're
had
a
a
rock star.
7-way
Yeah.
with people that you spent a flight with, and that was
Yeah.
like enough time to convince all of them to have an orgy.
Well, they were all KGB spies
Right,
who were
but-
sent to fuck him.
Right, but you know who's gonna believe that?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? We will now, but then
Yeah.
it's just this dude fucks.
And like the
The Russian women love him.
The worst thing you can say about him based on this is that he spent like 2 or 3 hours not doing government stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, he was just testing out new wives.
Now, what
it's
year
not
was
like-
this? Do we know?
Sorry, there's a requisite polygamist joke there.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking
was
that
the
some
draft.
of these stewardesses are probably still alive.
Could they be?
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, this happened to
Used
what?
be old.
This is the 50s we're talking about, right?
This is the 60s. Mid 60s. Yeah.
Brad, find one of these people and get them on the show. We need an interview.
We need to interview him.
Go on.
Does he have a big dick?
It was average.
But it's
Well,
more,
you
it's much
know,
more
I mean-
babushka-y, so it's kind of just like,
What?
it was average.
All right, to the credit of the stewardesses and how bad this was, like, does it count as an orgy if it's 30 seconds?
Oh.
You know what? I
Just
think it
one of them
does.
takes her shirt off and he's done.
I think it does. I think it does. Are there multiple people engaged in sex acts in the same space, like engaging in each other with each other in sex acts?
We're gonna put a
saxophone
poll up
music
on our
playing?
Facebook
Is
page,
there
and
is
the
there
listeners
a
are gonna tell
thumping,
us.
slapping?
How long is an orgy?
Yeah, Brad, can you?
When
can
is
you
an
investigate
orgy
that
an
for us?
orgy?
Okay.
Yeah, we've our scientific experiments will synthesize orgonium, and we will finally understand this issue.
It has a very short half-life though, so it doesn't. It appears and it just disappears.
So they show him this film,
they
and
show him-
do we know
they
what his
show him the
immediate
film.
reaction was? Was he smirking the whole time?
You know what his immediate reaction was? He said, "This is great. Can I have a copy?" This guy doesn't give a fuck.
What a
I would
dude!
love this for my home collection.
Seriously, he says he thinks it's a present. He thinks that they're showing him a present that they made for him, and he wants copies to show to his friends.
I'm imagining he has friends over and he just has this going in his kitchen. He's like, you want a cold one?
Man, I can't get to sleep. 1 second, I know what to play.
This always chills me out.
Ah, yes.
It's
there
like
it
at
is.
Indonesian Thanksgiving dinner. Hey nephew, come watch this. This is what happens when you
ASMR.
get into politics.
We're watching old
Indonesian
home
sex tape.
videos, like the time that Grandpappy had sex with 6 people at the same time.
This is where your cousins came from.
Oh, why are half my cousins blonde? Nah, probably.
Do you think that there's a Sukarno orgy baby?
Sukarnov.
They were. I think that they were probably all taking like Linen brand birth control or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just where you drink nothing but pickle juice.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you can't
well,
have kids.
well, Black Widow hasn't come out yet, but once it does, we'll verify that that's how it works.
Oh my god, Black Widow was a part of this.
Yeah, Black Widow's first mission.
This is
was
all in the
60s.
Marvel
No, well, no,
Cinematic
it wouldn't be
Universe.
Black Widow because of the time frame, but it would be like her mother.
Oh god. Wait, but
Exactly. I was hoping you would catch that.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
Blake, make Black Widow Indonesian again.
You heard it here first, folks.
I am against the whitewashing of Indonesian Black Widow.
I'm against the whitewashing.
when she was Indonesian the first time.
I'm against the
Marvel
whitewashing
No more
of,
cheers.
of Russian agents.
Comic was Indonesian Black Widow.
The depiction of Russian spies in modern media is completely whitewashed. They were all Indonesian. Mostly because of Sukarno and his one flight.
Oh, they were all half Indonesian. Yeah. So, the KGB plan is a complete flop. This just goes to show this is
some.
not. This is not.
Sukarno was right.
Particular was the best part of his life.
I'm just
Yeah, and-
imagining whoever had to film this just thinking like, man, I spent a night of my life doing this for nothing.
Oh my God, this is the worst job in the world. Just watching
Watching
other people
Sukarno's
screw.
sweaty, waxy dictator face.
And this was before they invented good lighting for porn, so it probably wasn't that great.
No, it was probably very, very washed out.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, that just sounds gross.
Sukarno seems like a lights on kind of person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you
Oh,
don't have
he
an
had
orgy,
all
you're
the.
gonna
He had
keep
probably
the
had
lights
heat
off.
lamps out. Hence the sweaty face.
Heat lamps. Is that what you just said?
Russia's cold, man. He probably wanted to warm it up.
Yeah, it's
for him.
cold in Russia. Heat lamps.
Just stand over the vent.
Like a
for
little
couple of
iguana
minutes,
man.
Guys. No turtling. Slaps thighs. Gotta get the blood going.
Oh, this is. I'm just imagining like his face.
This is a very NSFW episode.
This is very, very graphic.
These
All right.
images are brought to you for free by CrackOps.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
needs. It should. It needs to. If it doesn't, it needs to. All right. So
So it's a flop. They screw up, CIA caliber fuck up. It doesn't work because the culture is just different. And like everyone knows that
He doesn't give a
Sukarno is
shit.
a polygamous,
one
like
cares.
philandering cheater. No one
yeah,
cares.
no one cares. No one
Yeah, it's like
cares.
when you hear about Saudi princes doing debauched stuff overseas, and it's like, yeah, no one cares.
Yeah, everyone knows they do it. It's
Yeah.
not a scandal. Yeah.
It's admittedly it's like politicians in the United States. If they had a sex scandal,
Yeah.
people would be like, "Oh my gosh!" But then any
Not really
newspaper-
anymore,
any
because I mean,
newspaper
there's
running
a whole
story
thing
would-
about
would-
Trump and the prostitutes, and no one really.
Or
I think we're
Anthony
past
Weiner.
that.
He's back, right?
Well, we don't want to get into modern politics, but
I'm just saying though.
We want to
I think attitudes have
we want
changed
to
in the
avoid
U.S. pretty
saying the
rapidly.
names of
30
any
years.
politicians that are currently in power.
Yeah.
Once if they lose an election, then we can talk about
Fair
it.
game. Fair
But-
game. But if it's anybody who could still be voted for, we don't want to alienate our massive fan
Our
base.
massive fan
Oh,
base.
Massive
right.
ideological
Hey,
our-
I was just
widely
saying that it's
spread
really interesting to hear
political
about like
fan
Lewinsky,
base.
and I'm like, dang, I was alive when they were having this conversation.
Yeah, what an asinine scandal. Whatever. Yeah, so work in America super well. Can you imagine any American president? Like, can you imagine, I don't know,
LBJ.
like Richard Nixon getting caught?
No, I can't because he has a scrotal meat face.
Oh my God, he looks like a puppet.
Tricky dick, yeah. Mostly for the Watergate, probably. I hope so. I know it's not, but before that, I know. But still,
Yeah.
Watergate.
This store is very friendly.
He only eats ramen because he is not a cook.
Spiro, bring more butter. These stewardesses are drying out.
Now, this video actually, I feel like this could be birth control. Like they could show this in school health classes
Yeah, shit.
and just be like, "This is what sex is. Don't have it."
Don't become the authoritarian leader of Indonesia, or this might happen to you.
Oh my god!
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about our fan base fucking too much. Don't worry, guys. So anyhow,
I'm sorry that he insulted you like that. I'm sure that you have adequate sex lives.
Let's be honest.
All right. Anyway, back to the stuff.
Look, we want to be honest with these people.
Back to the
let's not
stuff.
sugarcoat it.
Let's just segue back to the stuff.
Fine. Whatever. Jesus. So, Sukarno thought it was really cool. He wanted the tape. They didn't give him one because the Soviet agents were very cruel.
That's just mean.
Yeah. So this thing became like kind of a myth, like a legend about Sukarno. There were documents that got released after the Soviet Union fell. As with all this stuff, the records didn't open up till the 90s. So the myth grew, and the CIA actually heard about it. And they didn't know it didn't work. So they thought, hey, we don't like this guy either. We can get him. We can destabilize his, little tripod of, political Islam, communism, and nationalism that he stands on, overthrow him, and hopefully put someone in power who's, not the communists. Because whoever overthrew him probably was not going to be the PKI. It would probably just be the army. That's what happened, actually. So the CIA decides that they're going to do the exact same thing. Except instead of creating a real sex tape, because they couldn't get him to come to the United States, they were going to create a fake sex tape.
They were gonna get a double.
They were
Now, what did the casting call look like for that?
Oh man.
Like, posters in LA, like,
backwards.
Southeast Asian man, roughly 50 years, DTF.
Do you look like this man? Would you like to have sex with 6 people at the same time? Do you want to serve your country?
Now, unfortunately, all the stewardesses were actually just CIA agents.
They were all triple agents. My God.
They were the same agents.
Yeah.
Hey, you're
Haven't I seen
familiar.
you before? Okay, so what do? They
So,
they make a. They make a. Oh!
Christ.
And one of those agents was J. Edgar Hoover. Having the time of his life. Doing what he does best.
Just dressing
Behind
up
the
in
camera,
drag.
just...
Dragged out, yeah. Fun fact, J. Edgar Hoover, interesting guy. We're going to get into his personal life.
That's like
a whole
two-parter.
later episode.
Yeah, that's like a
two-parter.
3 episodes there.
Abby's working on some material for that. and
I
it's just
sure
taking
am.
some time.
All right.
So, after years of trying to spread lurid sex rumors about Sukarno, some of which actually were true, it wasn't working because the Indonesians are cool and they actually think that sex
Very
is
sex
good.
positive,
They're
yeah.
sex positive culture. I don't know if that's changed, but it used to be. So they decided to go all in and make a fake sex tape. So I'm drawing this particular reading from Killing Hope by William Blum.
Chapter 4, verse 16.
I mean, page 101, look. But I actually have the page numbers on here, cited. It's not APA, correct, but it's cited. It's a good book. You should read it. And you can actually get a PDF of Killing Hope from CIA.gov. Because Osama bin Laden had a copy, and all of his digital files got FOIA requested and put on the CIA
That's
website.
how we have his anime stash.
Yeah,
His hentai stash.
Yeah.
we're gonna...
That's
not,
another episode.
That's another episode. Let's not give too much about that. This
Yep.
dude had a bunch of porn.
Things we never
that's
asked
another
for.
episode.
Yeah, the Warrior of God.
We'll
had
get
shit
into
ton
that
of
in a
porno,
future
yeah.
episode. We don't want to reveal all of our
Oh my
content
God.
at once.
Yeah, so I got a free copy from CIA.gov about all the awful stuff they did in the 50s.
Thank you, CIA.
Yeah. Yeah, get once more, seriously. They just keep giving. They're very generous people.
The content source that keeps on giving.
So, a film was produced for the CIA by Robert Mayhew, a former FBI agent and an intimate of Howard Hughes. The Playboy guy. So, what they did is they faked basically a wild sex party using porn stars from LA. And the CIA did a bunch of analysis of photos and descriptions of what Sukarno looked like to create a picture-perfect rubber mask of his face.
Now, you say documents. Did they not just have a photo of him?
They had plenty of surveillance photos, but they had to, because they get different angles and quality
Oh.
levels. So they had to have some, assuming someone's intern going through a box of Sukarno pics to just sketch out a picture.
So some poor FX artist had to make a Sukarno
They had
I
Tom
don't catch
Cruise
that.
dress up in the fucking Sukarno mask and fuck a
Someone had
hooker.
to have an orgy wearing a silicone mask from like the 50s or 60s.
Is it still
They
around?
how did they not pass out? That must have been so hard to breathe.
Can you imagine
They
the
put air holes
sweat that
in it.
would
And
come
you
off when
can't
peeled that thing
emote
off?
because it's rubber.
snorkel. It
So
had a
he's just
snorkel.
having like he's just having the same expression during all of the sex, and his head looks slightly disproportionately
Oh, he has like a
large
big ball head.
because
Yeah, oh.
the thickness of the rubber, and it's just like, this doesn't seem right. I don't believe this.
He keeps
still
his
like-
mouth closed the whole time.
Cameras here, so you couldn't see it very well.
They must have.
They used the bad light to their advantage.
Ah.
My God.
But the thing is, the lighting would actually be good because they had the LAPD find, because California was one of the places that did porn back then. It was very rare. They had the LAPD use their contacts in the underground, because porn was like illegal back then or something. Jacking off was basically a crime in the 60s. It was insane. They had the LAPD contract a porn company and get actors, and then they gave them the rubber mask and they had them produce a full shoot porno.
The
Now,
was-
question.
was
This
only-
is the 60s, right? So
Yeah.
was it just a white guy wearing a Sukarno mask?
Yeah, they probably did some racist body paint thing or something. I don't know.
But sir,
the
there's
top was
it's
starting
actually
to
a very
come off
diverse
during
city.
the
No,
things
we're
'cause
gonna
of all
paint
the
Jimmy.
sweat and friction, like cleaning something. Jesus Christ.
We're gonna give
Huh.
him 8 spray tans.
He's kind of splotchy. And the head looks
Oh
weird.
God, it comes off on the other actors.
Are we sure?
Oh my god.
Are we sure that this is real?
By the end of it, the mask is on one of like the hookers or something.
Porn stars, Brad, please.
His like fake hair is falling out.
Well, they actually were prostitutes.
He's melting under the lights.
Is there any difference materially between being a porn star and being a prostitute? It's sexual.
One is you get recorded,
Okay.
and the other one is you get paid, and there's probably no recording.
You get paid either
You
way.
get paid, and if you're a prostitute, you're
Well,
not doing it for free.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
But prostitution
If
is
it's a
illegal.
bad
Being
business-
porn star is
it's a
not.
bad
I've never
business
understood
model.
that. It doesn't make any
doesn't
sense.
make
It's the
sense.
exact same thing.
I agree.
It's whatever.
We should adopt
I think it's because
Sukarno-centric
I think
policy
there's
on
an
this.
argument. I think there's like a First Amendment argument there, like making porn is like a form of expression, whereas like soliciting your body for sex is not.
It's a gray area.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
But if you're going to all the effort to express yourself by putting on a bunch of shoe polish and a rubber mask of a South Asian leader, then it becomes really art.
it becomes art,
It's theater.
poorly produced art. But
This sounds like
produced
something that Andy
gauche
Warhol
horrible
might
art.
have produced.
Yeah, it really
so
does.
this is why we needed police forces back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Because obviously America was this idyllic state that nothing bad happened in, but mostly just to produce the CIA's porno videos.
Yeah. They had the LAPD taking time off from actual, police job stuff. To
They had
like,
the contacts. They knew the
Yeah,
guy.
they
You know,
knew
I
the
just,
guy.
It's
I
LA,
just
everyone's
noticed a
in show
connection
business.
between CrackOps and Sukarno.
Oh,
Brad
cut
is
out
wearing a Van Halen shirt. The Van Halen brothers' mom is from Indonesia.
What?
What?
Brad isn't wearing a Van Halen shirt. What are you talking about?
Brad never
Yeah,
wears a
Brad
shirt
is
when we
just
record.
wearing his full body Brad suit.
Brad's just wearing a Sukarno mask.
Hey, wait, do I hear bass music? Oh, God!
The lighting, it became terrible.
Why are there curtains blowing in
I
the
knew
wind?
we double booked this basement.
Ah, shit. Okay, guys, we got to cut early. The porn production company's coming in.
Yeah, we gotta go. But actually,
Yeah. The Black Box
Sukarno
does other
films.
stuff than just Sukarno.
that's probably not
podcasting.
true. But anyway,
So they made this Sukarno porno. What happened next? Did they release it to theaters near you?
No, it never got a theatrical release. It
Straight
was
to
just-
VHS?
It was yeah, straight
It was
to
art.
VHS.
It was
which
just
was-
too highbrow for everyone.
Yeah, it was on Laserdisc. No, the actual existence of this film is kind of ishy. Some people think they actually followed through and made it. Other people think that it never got past the planning stage, and that the LAPD put together the production but never shot it.
I really
So it's-
hope that it's in a basement somewhere.
I hope that there's a real somewhere.
Like someone's
That's
going to
probably
be
funny
looking
as
for
hell.
something really innocent about the LAPD, and they're going to find the Sukarno
Like
porn.
what?
yeah, about to say,
This video's on somebody's reel, every time they try to apply for
Yeah.
a job. Like, well, I was a part of this.
I did. I helped produce. I don't know if
Trying to
you've
get
heard of
into
it,
film
but
school.
the deep fake CIA Sukarno sex tape.
It really wasn't only deepfake.
I was an assistant director. I was an AD on that.
I was a grip on the Sukarno porn film.
I like to imagine that even though it was supposed to be this sort of this fake blackmail piece, that they had credits roll at the end. Well, it's Hollywood. So the question
There's
is,
such
who got
Makeup
narcissists they
assistant,
couldn't
assistant
resist.
director,
who got top billing?
assistant
Sukarno
polish
as
supplier.
himself. We swear in parentheses.
We promise. Pinky swear.
Yeah.
Shit. And so the
Executive
funniest
producer of the CIA.
The funniest thing about this thing not being produced would be that, or not making it out if it got produced, is that it would have to be really, really cartoonishly bad for them to not release it.
It was
and
very
try to use it.
obviously not Sukarno.
You could see the
Well,
neckline
I'm
on
imagining
the
that
Yeah.
under the
piping
heat
and
of,
stuff.
Yeah.
production lamps and stuff,
Yeah.
that wax,
This is before they
wax
had,
gets soft, so it's going to look like his face is melting off as he's just hammering into these actors.
Just having
Oh.
such a good time. His face is just.
He's not opening his mouth
need
or
a-
making any expression. His face just melts off.
The close-ups look terrible.
We need a porn star who can successfully have sex with a bunch of people at the same time, but also doesn't sweat when they do it.
Is that a seam on his neck?
his head's a different color from the rest of him.
It's starting to kind of tilt.
Oh.
If it shifts, they have to cut. And then
He
they go and
sneezes.
fix it,
Oh, God.
and then they know,
He
and it
sneezes
takes
and
a
like
little
hair
while.
comes like his
my
eyebrows
God.
fall
He
off.
sneezes and his face like bulges out and then goes back.
No, it's like while they're shooting, there's an issue with the mask, so they cut to go and fix it. But someone forgot that the clock was in the shot. So when they come back, suddenly time has changed, and that's why they couldn't use it.
Well, hey, communism can warp time. That's part of the reason the CIA was trying to get rid of him. It's true.
What?
That's the explanation for that.
Okay, wow.
We can't see it.
Yeah, what?
Oh, nice.
Jack just pointed at.
I gestured at nothing. We're not going to
Yes.
talk about it. So, anyway, it didn't work. It didn't work.
Clearly.
You can't blackmail. In conclusion,
It's really
So
hard
you
to blackmail
can't
someone if you
out-sex
don't distribute the
Sukarno.
blackmail.
That's what we've learned twice.
yeah, really. You can't blackmail people who are just like openly just cheat on their wives all the time. It doesn't work.
Especially if you're trying to blackmail them for sex.
Yeah, exactly. People are like, I don't really care that he does that bad stuff because like he's my guy. He's making
Beat the Dutch.
Indonesia, yeah, beat the Dutch. Woo. Although I actually don't know how popular he was toward the end. There was a lot of economic trouble, so that's part of the thing that contributed to his overthrow.
Spent all this time on training day finding a wife.
Yeah, he never had a vertical workday.
He was very involved in the scouting process.
The Don Draper of Indonesia.
Mad Men gets brought up too often on this show.
Well, Don Draper actually did seduce the stewardess, so
Yeah,
yeah.
Spoilers for a show I'm never gonna finish watching.
you're gonna finish watching it.
I'm really
eventually,
not. I don't even think it's on
good.
Netflix anymore.
All
Is it?
15
Oh,
seasons
well,
of
I'm
Mad
not gonna
Men.
look into that. I'm not
Each
gonna,
way too
episode is
long.
5 hours long.
I'm not gonna confirm that. Now, if the Sukarno sex tape went up
Half
on
of it
Netflix,
is just
I would just
Sukarno's
call
sex
that
tape,
show
but more
research.
mod. It's just abstract paintings and just men making very strange faces. It's all me sitting there like, this is clearly written by a man, no secretary would go for him. Neither here nor there.
It's all CIA sponsored art.
It's, yeah.
Mad Men is an op.
Mad Men
Mad
is
Men's an
op.
op
Yep,
to
that's the
convince
takeaway.
men that young women want to sleep with them.
I don't think that most men need to be convinced that young women
They kind
sleep
of just believe that intrinsically.
Yeah, they think incorrectly. I am, of course, correct in this.
So, is that
You
the end
can't
of the
out-horny
saga of
Sukarno.
Sukarno?
This is the end
The
of
sexy-
this
the sexy
particular
saga?
incident. This is the dumbest way we tried to overthrow him. We tried to get him a couple years previously by like sponsoring an insurrection and taking the tail
That's
numbers
always
off a
worked,
bunch
right?
of B-26 bombers
So,
so
like-
they weren't identifiable
like
and
the old-
bombing Indonesians.
The CIA Old Faithful.
Yeah, pretty much. There was a coup attempt every 5 years, basically. Indonesia was not a stable state. And then eventually they did get him. General Suharto took over, who was the head of some military unit, and they killed 500,000
That's like the new
people
Coke of
for
Sukarno.
being
Like, you've had
suspected.
Sukarno, now try Sukardo.
Yeah, it's really confusing to talk about this because the names sound really similar.
Yeah, and that's also pretty dark.
Yeah, there's a really, really bad ending to this. It's no fun. So eventually, it was not sustainable. Sukarno, not Suharto, damn it, Sukarno, he was personally holding the thing together, and once they got rid of him, it collapsed. And the nationalist and communist blocs that formed sort of this four-part government were annihilated in what amounts to a genocide. And the Indonesia, I believe, up until the 90s, continued to be ruled by a coalition of lunatic Islamists and bloodthirsty army officers. So, great.
Yeah, that's pretty dark.
Hey, but it's
So to bring it back,
like so many of the countries we talked about in the 90s, they got their shit together, and it's
Yeah.
economy still pretty bad, but
it's on an upswing, I thought.
oh, and East Timor, yikes.
Yeah,
But,
man, do you remember the 90s? Like, Pogs and MTV?
Yeah, Kurt Cobain.
What happened to your voice when you said that?
That's
It
your
took on a
90s
very
voice.
bizarre-
I
You know, a
channeled
very
my inner
interesting
Gen
accent.
Xer.
The man.
Yeah, the
Oh,
man. Now I have
Rachel
3 kids
and
and they all go to
Ross.
private school, but I got a sleeve tattoo, so I'm not the man.
I still listen to Radiohead.
Video
I love
killed the
Sublime.
radio star.
Hey, man, you want a blunt? I bought it in public because I'm white.
But the Saved by the Bell method of extending it, like very sinister, like, you want a cigarette?
Would you like a jazz cigarette?
Oh, no, he's the bad guy.
Would you like to try drugs, kids?
You can tell he's a bad drug man because he has a beanie and a leather jacket.
Yeah, those are bad.
You could have
kids.
one
And
of
he
those.
disappears after this episode.
That's true.
They say that he's been going to the school for some time. He's never seen again.
You can tell that Saved by the Bell is old because these days the school resource officer would shoot him 10 times.
Only in Texas.
Oh,
But
Actually, the first day the English exchange students came to my high school, someone got arrested for having weed in their locker.
what?
And we were talking to the British kids in the teacher's lounge, and for some reason, that's where they brought the kid while he was being arrested by the resource officer.
He's
Help
not a
yourself
teacher.
to a snack. Arrested for weed.
It was just
You
a
found it
dozen
out,
confused children from Cumbria and some dude getting arrested.
That's not a real place. Shut up.
the only way to see inside the teacher's
You know,
lounge is to
Cumbria
get arrested
sadly
for
is a real
jazz cigarettes.
Jazz cigarettes.
Jazz.
Son, those stems you had in your locker, very bad. You're going away for a
You know, it's
long,
actually
long
just
time.
maple leaves. I was celebrating Canada Day.
He had a Canadian flag and they thought it was like a Rasta thing and put him away.
Yeah.
So if you were actually trying to set up some sort of blackmail scandal to get Sukarno out of power, it would be the opposite of what they tried.
It would be a non-sex scandal.
Yeah.
It turns
would
out
be-
that he's never had sex with his wives.
Yeah,
And they like film
yeah.
him. It's like at night sitting next to her in bed reading.
It would be video upon video of Sukarno like propositioning women and then rejecting him flat out, saying
Ooh,
that
yeah,
he,
that would
he
actually
has
work.
the look of a weak-willed man with no virility to please me, kind of thing.
Or you would do a thing that's been tried various times in history and just say that his dick doesn't work and that he's impotent.
His dick don't work.
He doesn't actually have to have it.
His dick just don't work.
Plot twist.
Why do you think he had
Hey,
to
it's only
take
for
over
special
Indonesia?
occasions.
His dick don't work, and he needs to feel good about that.
Why
Just
do they
saying.
drive this massive truck.
He's
The,
rolling
the
coal
big
across
horn
Java.
edition.
The big horn.
We saw that driving up here. We saw a truck that was the big horn edition. And the question is it like a mountain, big horn, or is it like the horn is actually just like on the car that is like or something like that? Yeah.
like a boat horn.
A train, you say.
Or is it a big dick to compensate for the non-existence of another one?
Truck itself helped.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, why would they put that on a truck? That's
For those loud.
For towing.
Well, you know, to ram into cars that get too close to you.
Oh, brake check this.
You just rear-ended me.
Big horn edition.
We just wrote an ad for it.
Rear-ended big horn edition.
18 naked cowboys at Dodge Ram Ranch.
Oh, there'd be some sort of marketing stunt, like what Gap does, and they just have a bunch of naked cowboys walking around the sales centers. Come on, fellas!
But but going back to the whole Sukarno thing, what I find interesting about it is that like this probably could have been avoided if either the KGB or the CIA did any kind of like cultural research. If they actually just sent some people there,
If they
and
talked
asked
to one
them-
person from Indonesia.
yeah, if they were like, hey, if we like spend some time there, get a sense of what people are like, and then tell us if we should try this, if this will actually be effective, and they didn't do
Or
that.
how they can embarrass
seriously.
this guy.
or
They
at
were
least
just throwing stuff at the wall.
or at least like no one thought or anyone or someone did do this, it just didn't get through. Like this won't work, and it's a problem that I feel like we've had in our foreign policy often.
Yeah,
where Americans just don't want to learn
well, they don't.
the other cultures.
It's not that. It's like we don't know that we have to learn because we're used to this monoculture in the United
Well,
States.
used to default
We're
list.
not
It's like
used
how
to-
I mentioned, I think, that there were there's only like 1 or 2 Arab speakers in the FBI when 9/11 happened,
Yeah.
I
which is
remember that.
terrifying.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense too, because when you think about it, like in the United States, you can travel from one coast to the other, and the culture is kind of different.
There's regional stuff, and there are different ethnic groups and
Yeah,
stuff. But
and-
you're going to speak English the entire time.
Yeah, and
your money's
there's,
always good. You know,
there's some
my
like
money's real good.
overbearing like societal structure-y stuff that doesn't change.
Well, and we all watch the same media out of South California. Actually,
That's
this is
true. I think
interesting.
that's
An
a bigger
example
thing.
is most states don't have a DMV, but we call our state equivalent of the DMV the DMV.
That's actually true. It's
Wait,
not
what?
called the DMV.
Well, I know
Yeah,
that-
it's
I know that-
just in
I know that it's-
California, in
yeah,
a few states, it's
yeah,
called DMV.
I know that, but That's why I don't like it when people call the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area the DMV.
Yeah,
Because it's not a vehicle. It's not Department of Motor Vehicles. It's no.
Yeah, the DMV is not some kind of extended bureaucratic nightmare that
Yeah.
you spend all day in.
Just
It's
call it,
different.
We
just
have
call
the
it-
MVA.
Call it what we got from Bethesda, the Capital Wasteland,
That's actually a pretty good name for it, to be honest.
or Delmarva. I don't know, but not
Greater
DMV.
Fairfax. It's all
Especially
Greater
because
Fairfax.
there's Delaware and DC, so like it could be either one. Unless it's the DDMV, I would support that.
The double DMV.
The double DMV. Where are you from? The double DMV.
Double DMV.
Ball Hattie.
Double DMV, you know me.
Yes, sir.
Hey, that's my cousin Dale. We call him Double D. His last name's Daleson.
Dale Daleson.
No, his middle name is just D. It doesn't stand for anything.
Dale Daleson.
it's like
he
Homer
can
with
sell
J.
a
It's
car
like
like,
DE, yeah.
well, anything. So,
Oh,
do we have any
man.
other closing thoughts?
I don't know. No. Brad, do you have any thoughts?
No, none at all.
There are things we know, but there are also the ones we don't know,
I welcome this kind of examination.
The power of the presidency doesn't rest here.
Covert operation. Grave danger to the civilized world.
You deserve the truth.